all started when England sent a ship called the Mayflower to find a new land with the intention of founding a colony where the pilgrims have freedom of religion and speech. Aboard the ship, 102 colonists endured the grueling life on the ship for 10 weeks with...
You're gonna start there, really? It's gonna take forever to get to the parts that really shape the country.
Ugh, fine. Do you want to start?
Of course! We will start later in history with King George III of England, when he instigated a ridiculous tax on nearly everything, with an even higher cost for foreign settlers, like the Americans.
The most well-remembered, of course, was the tax on tea.
This angered the American colonists so much that the rebels in Boston, Massachusetts boarded an English cargo ship, found the tea, and threw all of it away. This iconic event was known as the Boston Tea Party. After this, the colonies began to divide over their opinions on starting a dispute with England.
The dispute encouraged a man named Patrick Henry to give his iconic patriotic speech, which we still quote today when we remember the American Revolution.
Soon the British came wanting to seize weapons from the colonists, but the disorganized colonist army met them in Lexington, Massachusetts, where they had a standstill until a gun fired. The two sides thought it was each other and started firing. Now we have no idea who fired that shot. But one thing is for sure. That shot started the American Revolutionary War.
The war lasted for 8 years, with the British dominating most of the war. They were much more organized than the American colonizers, who were used to relying on Great Britain for the wars they had fought. They tried to get help from the disorganized leaders of the colonies, but they could only do so much for the poor army and colonists.
In the fall of 1781, General George Washington and Alexander Hamilton led the American troops to a victory in the Battle of Yorktown, which lasted for 21 days. Finally, the British surrendered, and after 2 days of negotiation on both sides, what we now call the Treaty of Paris, officially giving America her independence.
Finally. That was really long. Time for a nap.
Not yet! We only just started calling the colonies a country. Now we need to make it look like an actual country. This is just the halfway point.
Oh, no, I don't remember any of that part.
Now that we have our own country, we have to show what we believe in. Now what do we believe in?
Naps.
We believe in independence! This is our chance to have true freedom of speech and worship. So we got someone to write a declaration of all those things that we believe in. Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence, and 56 of America's founding fathers signed it on July 4th, 1776.
I always mix up the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. What's the difference?
The Declaration of Independence explains why we believe what we believe as Americans, and the Constitution explains a lot of the original laws that our founders came up with.
I guess that explains why the Constitution was written more than 10 years after the Declaration of Independence. By the time they wrote the Constitution, the war was over, and they already started to form the government.
Exactly!
So, how did they decide what type of government we have?
There were 2 ways. One way was the Federalist Papers, written mainly by Alexander Hamilton. The Federalist Papers gave us an outline of what our government should look like, and it was a huge part in forming our government. And the other way was, one thing that most Americans are proud of is the way we have a president instead of a king, like England and a lot of other countries. The real reason we have a president is because General George Washington decided to be a different type of leader after learning what we could from the way that King George III ruled.
So we only have a president because of Washington?
Yes!
So make being president different from being king?
The president also has to leave after a certain amount of time in office so we can elect someone else. George Washington left after 7 years, and most presidents followed his lead in 8 years or less until it was made law that you can only be president for 4 years before the people get to vote again, and 8 years before you have to stop running for president.
Wow. A lot happened after the war. I didn't know how important all those papers were.
A lot of those papers are the reason why our country is such a defined government that has lasted for almost 300 years. These papers have lasted over all of the different presidencies and generations of people who grew up differently, but still have the same ideals that our founders had.
That's amazing. I had no idea that our country was based on such strong ideals like freedom.
That's why learning history and government is so important. We can learn what our country started to stand for. so we can continue to stand for the things that have always stood for, and apply them so we can learn the way others used them in the past and apply them today.
I have my mask on.
That's the end of it.
Where was it? Dang it, I forgot.
One thing that most Americans are very proud of is the way
he's
they...
not, he's supposed to
He's
come
not
out.
on yet! Oh my god.
Oh my god. Just flip his chin. Do his chin.
Okay, wait, I'll just like do this.
Like,
Just start counting down.
he's like a dog.
yeah.
How they stare at you like. Anyway.
3.
Okay, 3, 2.
Wow. A lot happened after the war. I didn't know how important all those papers were.